Hey there, and welcome to my channel. My name is Shauna A. I'm a licensed clinical mental health counselor, and you may know me as the Delightful Clinician. This is an introductory video to my channel, and I'm going to be sharing the state of the mental health field, why I got into the field in the first place, and what I have learned after almost 10 years of being in the field itself. So let's get started. In this introductory video, I'm going to be sharing what made me choose the mental health industry over all of the other choices that I had, the state of the industry, and what I would do differently knowing what I know today. If you're contemplating entering the mental health industry or you're a clinician that's just feeling a little bit glum about your decision, this channel and video is for you. So yes, I'm a licensed clinical mental health counselor. I've been in the field for almost 10 years now, and it has been an interesting ride. I cannot believe that this much time has gone on since I've entered the field. It's been a lot of fun. It's had its ups and its downs, and I'm definitely going to be sharing that with you today. So here are the reasons why I chose getting into the field. One, for job security. When I was looking for something to do, I really wanted a career that I thought would be able to give me some longevity and something that I would always find a need for, or the community would always find a need for. I really was interested in health at one point, but to me, I just could not go into school for another however many years it would have taken for me to get into the health field. So I found that mental health was a way of getting into the health field while really having less amount of time in advanced schooling. I also looked at potential income. I thought that was really important because I really wanted to be able to sustain and make some kind of generational wealth for myself, my future family. And I really wanted to be able to purchase things that I wanted without having to make a second thought about that. So I thought that the mental health field had good job industry because when I was looking at it, it showed a lot of growth and it showed pretty decent salaries at that time, which is probably something that I will get into later. And the last thing that really drew my attention to the field was that it seemed like something that fit my personality. I'm definitely someone who likes to know more about people. I like to hear other people's stories. I love your origins. So I want to know more about people. I'm kind of nosy in that way. And mental health really fit my personality in that way. I also really wanted to work more with children and families, specifically early childhood, birth through the age of 5. And so I thought this was a really good field for me to do, like early child psychology and early mental health practices there. And that's actually exactly what I do now. I work in perinatal mental health. So I work with adults, but I work a lot with adults who are experiencing fertility issues. I work with adults who are pregnant, and I also work with adults who have recently had children in their early postpartum years. So the state of the industry. Currently, we are seeing a shift in the mental health industry. So when I was in school, we talked a lot about basically one-on-one therapy and community mental health. My graduate degree is in community counseling, and I have a concentration in marriage and family therapy. So a lot of what we talked about was research. We talked about career counseling. We talked a lot about family systems. We did some group therapy, and then we talked about your therapy skills as a therapist. We didn't talk about, telehealth, which is huge right now. And we also did not talk about the business of therapy. Those two things were super essential. And I feel like not knowing those things is what causes some burnout, because when you are in the industry at this point in time, what you notice is there is a lot of opportunities for telehealth, specifically because of the panini, but you're also seeing a lot of places that are talking about, creating your own business and leveraging your own business. If you go into private practice, which a lot of clinicians aspire to, that is essentially having your own business. And so if you have no idea how to run a business, you're bound to make a lot of mistakes. That happened to me early on. Now I feel like I have a lot better control over that, but that came after years of learning how to do so. But there are definitely some resources to help you manage a business. It just would have been really helpful if grad school taught that early on. Some of the resources that I find super helpful and that I have utilized before is your local business entities. So if you check your state, you might want to check out the local community college because they do have small business centers. And those places can be really helpful, specifically in getting coaching when it comes to writing out business plans, thinking about marketing research, and those kinds of things. But other things that are really helpful is just finding people who are talking about marketing, who are talking about running businesses, and helping you to formulate putting a plan to paper. Having a plan and having an idea of how you want to run your private practice, even down to, okay, how many clients do I need to sustain the income I'm looking to make, is a big deal, and it can help you in the long run. In part, the mental health industry is why I created this channel, because one, clinicians are working to the point where they're feeling really exhausted and burned out and leaving the field. And that is really harmful, especially during a time where we are seeing higher and higher demand for mental health counselors. But clinicians are also leaving the field because they're not making enough finances to sustain their lives. And it's not because they're overspending, it's just because the reimbursement of a clinician often does not match the cost of living. And it doesn't give you enough to pay off even your student loans. So if you have hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loans, then you want to have a position that's going to give you enough leverage so that you can save money and pay off those student loans in a viable time. But the industry doesn't really do that. And we're talking reimbursing people as low as $27 in some places. I'm not going to say any specific online platforms, but if you look at their reimbursement, it's actually super low. So I created this channel to help clinicians think about a way, and even new clinicians, people who are interested in the field, think about ways that you can make money so that you don't burn out, so that you're not frustrated, and so that you have a practice that you enjoy and that you love, but also serves your community and serves your needs. More on that. So yes, reimbursement sucks. There are some people who do really well for themselves, and they do well because they have a rate that they have set, and they've also learned how to navigate certain organizations that do reimburse therapists. But that is something that people are just now learning, and it can be really frustrating when you are receiving lowball offers and you're being told that it's super competitive when it just really isn't. I've said this before, but they also don't teach marketing in grad school, and they also don't teach business savvy at all. So if you don't know anything about businesses or marketing, you're gonna struggle for a little bit, because the only thing that people tell us is, oh, go ahead and put your name on a directory. So now you're at the mercy of this directory to make funds, and that could be really frustrating when that doesn't start rolling in a timely fashion. Another reason why I created this channel, and I said this a little bit before, is because we are seeing a lot of organizations just basically burning clinicians out. There could be because of outdated policies, that could be because of, again, low reimbursement, that could be because of these productivity models where it's putting clinicians in the position where they have to see 36 and 40 clients a week. And that could be a lot. That basically means you're seeing 7 to 8 people in a day. When you work in a field where you can experience vicarious trauma, overwhelm, or you can just have rude people come in, most people are not going to want to do that 7 to 8 times a day. Now, there are some people who love high caseloads. They really enjoy it. That's where they feel comfortable. But when talking to a lot of clinicians, that is the surefire way of burning themselves out. And that's essentially why I created this channel, was to show you other ways to create income in the field without burning yourself out. Here are the upsides. If you run your own private practice, you have a lot more autonomy than you would if you are working for an organization. So what do I mean by that? Instead of packing your caseload full of people, you can have a reduced caseload and then add other things to your private practice. And those other things, I'm talking about side hustles. I'm talking about just other forms of income so that you don't have to overwhelm yourself with seeing people. Also, there are resources like I mentioned before. So instead of being like, well, they never taught me how to do this in grad school, so I won't do it, reach out to your local community resources, get online, get in social media, and see what everybody else is providing and what everybody else has to offer as far as marketers and as far as, I call them social media gurus. See what they have to offer to help you learn what you're missing. Those skills are actually not that difficult, but it may take a lot of time. You can also find people like me who's willing to share those skills with you so that you can grow and build your revenue without having to overwhelm yourself and spend years trying to figure it out. And then also know that if business isn't for you, that there are amazing organizations out there. There are group practices and private practices that are hiring other clinicians who do treat you well and who do reimburse you well. So it's not that you have to stick with the organization who's mistreating you. You can also advocate for yourself and go out and say, hey, this is actually not correct and I will not stand for this. Or you can find organizations who are willing, like I said, to reimburse you in a way that is more suitable for your needs. So let's get down to it. Knowing everything that I know, here's what I would do differently. Once upon a time, I actually had a coaching business. It was called Delightful Struggles. It was also attached to a blog. And I really just ended up giving up on that because I struggled so much to get coaching clients in the door. The reason why I struggled to get coaching clients in the door was because I knew nothing about marketing and how to market, and I didn't pay enough attention to it. If I knew what I know today back then, that was a little confusing, but if I did, what I would do was learn how to market and push the business through marketing skills. And also know that it's not an overnight thing. So just because things weren't clicking in year 1 and year 2 doesn't mean that they weren't ever going to click. It just means that I needed to revisit, recharge, and reset and learn the skills that I needed necessarily to push that business. I also think it's really important to know that as a clinician, they make us believe that all you need is to just put things on a directory. And you're going to need more than that, especially if you have an auxiliary business. So get away from just resting all of your eggs in the directories and learn how to speak and engage and get clients and get newcomers to your business without relying so much on this place that you have to pay in order to get referrals. Another thing that I would do completely different was focus less on what I couldn't do and more on what I could do. A lot of rules within the therapy world makes you believe that you have to follow certain things. And yes, you have to follow certain things, right? There's a whole world of ethics that we have to abide by. But those ethics are not as rigid as some would make you believe. And some people just really interpret ethics just way more critical than others. So what you need to know is learn how to interpret your ethical code in a way that 1, it makes you comfortable, 2, follows the rules, but 3, allows for you to do what you can versus what you cannot. A lot of people focus on what you can't do, and that's going to get you nowhere. It's time to start focusing on the things that you can do, and because there is a world of possibilities out there. For a long time, people thought that telehealth was impossible, and it took people the panini to realize that, guess what? It's not as impossible as we thought. And to also recognize that there was a whole world of people doing online therapy well before the panini came about. And the last thing that I would have done differently is taken my CEUs a little bit more seriously. And what I mean by that is that I would have taken ones that would have provided me more skills. So there was one that was a coaching certification that I took. And by the time I was done, I was trained in family life coaching, which I still use today. And then others that I took, they were kind of like, modality stuff. So I took some things in CBT, which I used for a very long time. But the best CEU that I've taken that I enjoy the most was my perinatal mental health CEUs. That really shaped my business and really shaped what I do today in private practice. So what I will say is that really look into your CEUs, get serious about what you're trying to do, whether you're going to take like a yoga CEU or something to that effect. Just look at what you're taking and how that's going to affect your business and how you can utilize that, whether it's in direct services, in therapy services, or in something else. So let's get down to it. Here's why I created the channel. I looked around and I noticed that there was a lot of clinicians experiencing burnout, overwhelm, and frustration with the field and the state of the industry at this point in time. Really, it feels like clinicians are being pushed out, and part of that is because we just don't understand business because it wasn't taught to us. But I wanted to change all that because I think it's really important if we learn the business, if we learn how to create the revenue that we always thought about when it comes to our practices, we would be happier clinicians, and happy clinicians do great work. It's just the way that it goes. So I want to help relieve burnout by teaching you how to side hustle so that you can create that practice and create those services that you've wanted while not having to worry so much about creating financial stability as well. It's a twofold kind of thing. And I'm so happy that you're here because you are definitely going to get a little bit of everything, from learning how to create a side hustle all the way down to some excerpts about marketing and utilizing social media to help you get your business connected, seen, and heard. Thank you so much for joining me. Stay tuned for more. And if you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe. Until next time.